G'day. I thought I'd throw together a quick comprehensive how-to for getting your own Ark server up and running on your desktop. Please note that there are steps in this that are geared towards setting this up on your machine, not an external device. You can still follow along, but you can skip the parts related to port forwarding. And don't worry, if those two words freaked you out a little bit, I assure you, I'll try and make this as painless as possible. Timestamps and links will be available in the video description below. Let's get into it. Go to the GitHub page for the Ark Server Creation Tool and find the file by going over here and pressing V2.1 just beneath where it says releases. The link for this is in the video description below. If there's a newer version available, it's best to get and use that. If there's any changes, the procedure will still very much be the same. We're going to go ahead and click the blue writing for the Ark Server Creation Tool zip file, and that will start downloading what we need. Wherever you want your server to be stored on your computer, create a new folder. I'll be calling mine ARK Ascended Dedicated Server. It doesn't matter what these files are called, just as long as you're happy with the flow. Inside this folder, I'll make another folder called Ark Server Creation Tool, and the contents of that zip file we just downloaded from GitHub, I'll be extracting into this folder. We can now go ahead and run the Ark Server Creation Tool.exe file, and if it doesn't automatically, make sure to run it in administrative mode. My OBS didn't pick up the administrator question, but I am running it in administrator mode as well. With the window that pops up where it says install folder, click browse and set it to the parent folder. In this case, it's going to be the Ark Ascended Dedicated Server folder I made earlier. For the cluster data folder, select the browse button again, and this time inside my Ark Ascended Dedicated folder, I'll make a new folder called Ark Cluster. Now, unless you specifically know what you're doing here, leave the default port at 7777 and port increment at 10. Also make sure that the bottom box for automatically create firewall rules is ticked. Press save config and now a new window will pop up. This is the ASCT servers window and it will be our home window for this creation tool. Press the plus icon down the bottom left of the window, which will pop up a new window called ASCT server configuration. This is where we'll create the server's profile for the creation tool. So enter a name. Note, this is not your actual Ark server's public name. This is just for your management inside this tool. For the install directory, click browse and create a new folder inside the Ark cluster folder. This will be where your server files download to, so it's probably best to name it something distinctive, such as the map's name. I'll be calling mine the center. For map, this is where you'll choose which map you'll be playing. Simply click the drop down arrow and select an official map. However, if you want to play a custom map, you'll need to do the following. Go to that mod's CurseForge page and type in the name of the mod or filter by the maps. Search it and get that mod's project ID. A link to the CurseForge page will be in the video description below. While you're on that maps page, you'll want to look up the mod maps file name, which is usually the advertised name of the map followed by an underscore and a capital WP. But don't take this as gospel and make sure it's actually correct. To correctly get the mod map working, you'll need to add the project ID from the mod page into the text box, paste that next to where it says add mod. Now to actually load that custom map, we'll need to enter that custom map's name into the map field. You can click the button that says new map and you'll be able to type it in there. For cluster ID, this is where you can link servers together. Of course, you can link to any server, even others that you host. Again, if you don't know how to port forward, this next box, just leave as it is. This will allow you to follow along at the end. Plus, this tool will increment this value for each new server you make, which is extremely helpful if you intend to have multiple servers, so that way you can do your own clusters. Max players is self-explanatory. I don't have friends, so I'll put this down to 20, but it can be as low as you like. As for the maximum, I would assume it's 100. If you want crossplay for all consoles, this is where you can enable or disable that. BattleEye is Ark's anti-cheat. I run my servers with this off, but if you intend to play with randoms, best leave it on. Mods. This is where you can add or remove mods to your server. It's a little tedious, but once you get into the flow, it's no issue. Just like what we did with the custom map, whatever mod you're after, you can go to that CurseForge website, search your mod, find the project ID, copy it, and then paste it into the bottom bar and then click add mod. Once you see the ID you entered shift up, that's when you know it's been added. I'll put in the mod project IDs list that I use in the video description. Then if you want to remove a mod, you simply select it, and then next to the add mod button, there's a trash icon, which you can use to delete it. Finally, we have an empty tick box that says manually define launch argument. For me, I had to have this active for the no BattleEye tag to actually work, but this was only with one test, so your experience may vary. Once that's done, click save, and now you should have a server in the ASCT servers window. If you don't have this window, just restart the server creation tool.exe and it should pop up. Select your new server and press the update game files button down the bottom. If you get a pop-up window saying unable to locate dport downloader, just press yes to it so it can automatically do that step for you. This will begin downloading all the server files such as the map, settings, etc. I'm going to speed up the video here so we don't all rot away sitting here. For reference, my download took almost 14 minutes. For future reference, if you need to at any point, you can validate your game files from here as well. Whenever Ark updates on your console or your PC, be sure to come back here and update your server, otherwise you won't be able to join your server because of a version desync. You can now close this window and go back to the main ASCT servers window. If you don't see a server under the servers list, you may need to restart the creation tool again. Once your server is there, select your server and then press the View Server button down on the bottom right. This will open the ASCT server menu window and will tell you which server you currently have selected in the window header. If you need to adjust any of the previous mods or settings, you can click the server configuration button and it will take you back to the previous settings screen. If you need to go back to the updater, you can click the Open Update to get back to that window. Go ahead and click the Open GUD.ini config button, which stands for Game User Settings. If you've played with Ark Servers before, you'll already know this. But if you haven't, here's where you can edit your server game files. You may get a pop-up window which says Missing Config. Just press yes to this pop-up and have it initialized for you. If this file is blank for you, don't worry. It's probably just because you've opened this file before the downloading of the server is finished. This is where you can change any settings by writing out the name of it, putting in an equal symbol, and then following up with the value you want it to be. But the best thing to do here is to go to the Ark Wiki page, which I'll have linked in the video description, and scroll till you see the header server settings, or better yet, do a page search with Control F and look up the words Game User Settings and navigate to that section. Once you're there, go through each setting and see if you're happy with the default settings or not. Essentially, every setting written on the wiki is already in our GameUserSettings.ini file, but we have to change it manually if we're not happy with the defaults. In the video description, I'll put in the settings you're likely to change for this one, but be sure to add in a server password if you want one. And down by the very bottom of the file, you'll have a field for the server name. This is the one that will be public and what you'll be searching for. Control S that or press File then Save. You'll need to close the notepad because while it's open, you can't interact with the other windows. And now we can do the same thing for the settings that pop up when you press Open Game.ini config button. Same thing as before, if you get the missing config message again, just press yes to have it create one for you. But this one's basically going to be empty, so don't worry about that. You can find the associated settings for this file under the Game.ini heading on the wiki. Again, be sure to go through the settings and see if there's any that you'd like to change. And when you're finished, go ahead, save and close it. If you're using external services, you can go ahead and press Start Server. If you're setting this up on your own computer, we'll need to do some port forwarding so we can actually have it appear online. But first, let me show you how my Ark server is also not showing in the available servers list. Each modem or router is different, and my layout may not look like yours. You can try and access your modem settings and follow along by taking an educated guess at where your port forwarding settings are. Or you can try and Google the name of your modem and type port forwarding setup, and you might get some instructions from the manufacturer. Here's mine, for example. I need to open up a web browsing page and type in my modem's access point address into the address bar. Once I'm at my modem's landing page, I'll sign in. Again, for my modem, I then go to Network Settings, click Port Forwarding, and I can simply click Add Rule. If you're still looking for your port forwarding settings, this is what you're looking for, something that looks like this. I'm now going to go ahead and enter some details. The name can be anything, so I'll name it Ark Server Port Forward. Unless you've been specifically told to use a particular service, leave it as Other. Make sure that the protocol is TCP TAC UDP. The internal host, this needs to be your device's local network IP. The most reliable way to get this is by running command prompt and typing in ipconfig/all and look for the IP address that lines up for the IPv4 address. This prompt I'll also add in the video description and on screen. Copy that address and paste it into the internal address field. With the internal address field in, we need to set the external and internal ports. Because I can have any number of different rules, I can do a single port forward for each. So I'm just going to enter 7777 into both, and I can make new rules for any other servers I host. I then press add and make sure it's toggled on. I can turn the server on by pressing the Start All button on the ASCT Servers window, or run it individually by selecting it and pressing View Server and then pressing the Start Server button. You'll know when your server's ready to go by the status color in the bottom left corner. If it's yellow, it's loading. If it's green and says ticking loop, it means it's ready to go. If it's your first time running the server and you have a bunch of yellow writing in the server console, don't worry, that's perfectly normal. You can open up Ark now, and when searching for your server, make sure that you are searching through unofficial servers. If you're using a password, make sure that this Show Password Protected Servers is enabled. And of course, if you don't have a password on your server, make sure that you're searching with this off. Make sure that the Show Player Servers is also enabled. Once you find your server, go ahead and join it like you would for any other. It'll then get you to check its mods it wants you to install, and these will be the mods that you added with the project's ID. Once that's done, you'll be on your way to making your character. While I was recording, Ark did not like me recording with OBS and it caused it to crash. But to show that I successfully loaded into the dedicated server and disconnected, you can see those entries into the server console. Now, if you'd like to reset your map progress or both, you can head to the Ark cluster folder, then click on the folder that has your server. In my case, it's the center folder. Then shoot a game, saved, and you can delete the saved games contents or the saved Arks contents. And when you've done that, go back to the creator tool, select the server you're resetting, click the view server button and click the open update button. Then press update down the bottom of that window. And that's it. You now have your own server. I hope that this helps you out, and you can help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, maybe even throw in a cheeky sub. I do expose videos on fake mobile game ads, and of course, various walkthroughs. This has been Zentiska on how to set up dedicated servers for Ark Ascended. Till next time, see ya.